You've probably noticed the format's a little different today. You've joined us here at Red Rock Canyon here in Las Vegas, and we're in the MX5 Miata driving on the scenic loop. This place is beautiful. Anyway, today's video is a little bit different. I know I usually film from home in my studio and I start firing off the jokes and stuff, and you kind of know what my humor is like if you've been following the channel. And today I'm combining my 7 months with the MX5 RF Club since I bought it, reviewing it and kind of telling you a little bit of the background behind the car and me. And what better place to do it than in front of this beautiful, beautiful backdrop. First and foremost, obviously, it's one of the most fun cars to drive in the world, hands down. Despite it being underpowered, I think it's actually just the right power for this lightweight format. Rear-wheel drive doesn't let down anyone in that department. I've let several family members and friends try driving the car. Look at that. It's beautiful, guys. I'm telling you right now. Don't let the hairdresser image fool you about these cars. And they all walk in and walk out with this huge smile on their face. So I know there's a formula that everybody enjoys that's in the car. Now, if you haven't seen my other video where I talk about using this car on my commute and it being the perfect car for my commute, definitely check that one out. Daily driving an RF Club like this is so much fun, and it makes so much sense for me. I have a nice windy road to work, and that's just a little bit more fun in my day that I like to live through. So it's been very livable. The hardtop, I feel like, was a great choice for me. I know the convertible soft top is lighter weight, but the shape of this car, when you're looking at it from the outside with the hardtop up, it's still got that nice rear-wheel drive coupe look to it. And that's part of the reason why I bought this car, is that it actually harkens back to a few cars that I've had in my past. But yeah, more on that in a bit. The infotainment system on the MX5s is just horrible. So it's slow, it's clunky, it works. It basically plays music when I want it to play music, and I can listen to news when I want to listen to news, but it's nothing to cheer about. The trunk opening, way too small. I did a video where I talked about that, so I would probably have a wider trunk, but I'm learning to live with it. I know I can fit a lot of small things in there, but not one big thing that might not make it and clear through the trunk opening. They got rid of the passenger side glove, so there's not much storage here, even in the interior. There's no real side pockets in the doors, so I'm just learning to live with that. Luckily, when I go to work, I just have a small little satchel case, leather satchel that I bring with me to work, and I travel pretty light in that sense. Driving all the way out here to Las Vegas with Mrs. Miyada, we had to have a second car bring most of our stuff because filming gear and luggage, not a thing in this car, not a thing. So storage, I'm definitely having to live with and work around. Luckily, our family has different cars that have way more space than this that we can carry things in. Other than that, I love this car. When I had my own first car that I called my own, it was a 1998 Nissan 200SX SER, or with the chassis code B14. Yes, it's the B14. And the thing was such a go-kart, and it was so fun to drive and look at. Okay, so another car after the B14 was, I finally found a B13 SER from a mechanic who basically got it from a customer who couldn't pay for the repairs on a different car. And so they were holding on to this 1993 B13 Sentra SER, and I snagged it, and that was fun. Unfortunately, that car got stolen from me. Yeah, I was heartbroken. But it was parked out in front of my house one night. I wake up in the morning and then it was gone. And then after the SER, I did get myself a 2002 WRX. This was the first time the WRX had come to the United States in a turbocharged all-wheel drive 4-cylinder. Again, you got a peppy little 4-banger with a turbo on it. The all-wheel drive was great to experience and drive for a while, and I took it to autocross as well. And that was just a hoot. It was so much fun, and it didn't cost an arm and a leg. I drove it for like a few years, and I put about 125,000 miles on it before I sold it. I had to take a job which had a commute which wasn't friendly with the gas mileage I was getting from the WRX. And so, yeah, I just kind of moved on from there. After the WRX, I picked up a couple of Scion XBs just because they were kind of in their own class. You know, this small little box car. You could customize them. You could drive them hard if you wanted to without getting into trouble. So I had a couple of XBs, both the 2006 and 2008, which were the two different styles that they came in before they got discontinued. And then after that, I really wanted to get back into performance driving. I picked myself up a 2013 Scion FRS, rear-wheel drive sports, affordable. That car was also a hoot. I got that, and I got it because I knew I wanted, again, a weekend performer and just a livable daily driver during the week when I had to go to work. So I had a ton of fun. That's when I really got my hands on experiencing rear-wheel drive. Before that, I had just been driving all-wheel drive and front-wheel drive cars. And so the FRS was kind of my first taste of that, real taste of it. So while I had the FRS, I also picked up a project 1974 and a half 260Z. I bought it from an engineer who was building it as their project car out in Tustin, California. Anyway, he had put it for sale, and I picked it up for $4,700 as a project car. Now, it worked. That's what amazed. That was so amazing. After 40 years of existence, that car still ran. And on top of that, the engineer had put an L28 motor in there with carburetor. So it was the motor from the 280Z, but then he had replaced the fuel injection with a carburetor, and that thing was awesome. I took that to meets. It was so much fun to drive it around and talk with other people in the community and meet other, Z owners, HLS30Z owners, and that was so much fun. And that sense of community that I got from driving a Z and joining the Z Drivers Club here in California, that was kind of cool to be part of that kinship almost of vehicles. I had to sell the Z, unfortunately, and that beautiful car went to another owner who was going to continue on finishing that project out in LA somewhere. So I hope I run into it someday. But I did have to sell it. It was just kind of sitting in my garage, and I didn't have the time and resources to put what I properly wanted to in that project car. And then the FRS, I just sold that last year. It had some oil leaking problems, and it was the first generation of its kind. So I'm living with all the bugs of a first gen run of a car. And yeah, I kind of wanted to explore again what other cars were out there. So meanwhile, while I'm driving the FRS, I'm looking at Mazda, and I'm thinking, man, I've always loved watching these Miatas tear it up at autocross, and they just seem really interesting to me. So I started doing a little bit more research on the Mazda selection of vehicles. I know RX-7s are just legends in their own right, of course, but they do take a lot of work, and working with a rotary is definitely a labor of love. So I was like, maybe not a Mazda rotary, but more something else. So I was looking at the Miata at first, but I didn't know what to do. I didn't know if I wanted to get an older one, like an NA, NB, or NC, and then just use that as a project car. But I did see that the ND came out, and that thing is just super sexy at the time. What I did as a halfway step is I actually bought my first Mazda was a used Protege 5, MP5 wagon, blue, and I bought it from a college student who was just trying to get rid of it because they had gotten a new car. And yeah, that thing was fun to work on. Again, peppy little four-cylinder, probably not putting out as much power as it did when it was brand new, but it was fun to drive. Like, that's when I knew, it was a relatively cheap purchase. It's about $1,000, and right away I could feel and sense the fun DNA that lives in almost every Mazda in an old MP5 wagon. I mean, that's awesome. So it led me to make my next purchase down the road, which was a Mazda 3. This was 2017. I bought a Mazda 3 wagon, or hatchback, excuse me. And I got it, of course, in manual. All my cars pretty much have been manual cars. I love driving stick shift. But that's when I'm like, okay, cool. Let me get a hatchback because it seemed really practical. And let me just, again, see how it feels like to drive a brand new Mazda that's fun to drive. And of course, for me, I saw the Mazda 3 hatchback as basically a front-wheel drive Miata. Almost the same power plant. Yeah, it was the same power plant, just front-wheel drive. And yes, it did not let me down. Come to 2021. I finally decided and put my foot down that I was going to get a brand new Mazda MX5 Miata RF Club as my next car. But if you look at my car history, this is tying back to my initial point. If you look at my car history, they all point to Miata. They all point to Miata. I want something that's not going to kill me, that I can work on, that's customizable, affordable, great value. These 7 months have been a blast, every single mile. In my opinion, I don't need more power. Like, it's the first car I've bought. We're right out of the box. I'm having the most fun with it, and I could die happy at that point. So in summary, over the last 7 months, I've completely fallen in love with this car, the MX5 Miata RF. But I feel like it's taken me my whole life to come to appreciate it, given my history of cars. Now, do I regret ever selling any of those? I do. But I think a part of each one of those cars lives in my Miata today, which, if I think deeply about it, makes this my forever car, because that's how long I think I'm going to keep it. In the old German language, the name Miata means reward, and this is definitely it. So if you're on the fence about getting one, don't be. Just get it and love it. Thank you for stopping by and watching. As always, I'm Mr. Miyada. Peace.